I've noticed, or I'm sure a lot of people know that, or are aware of the fact that your music has always been sort of really danceable, and you got great reviews about it all. I mean, this single seems a bit of a change of pace. Any particular reason for that?
Well, we just thought that it would make a change. We had other stuff that we could have released, and we thought that it would be more of a challenge to release something like Leaving Silence, which is not so danceable. You can dance to it, but it's just not directly heading for the disco sort of thing. We think it would just be more of a challenge.
The variety, obviously, that sort of thing, which is great, one of the things that I do want to mention, a few weeks ago we had Vince Clarke in here, who obviously played a big leading role in the band. How did you find all that when Vince left?
It was hard at first, but we've been writing a few songs and that, and we knew he was going to leave, really. Yeah. So he was a bit unhappy, didn't talk to us much at the end.
But, oh well, there you go.
But we're friends with him now, that's all that counts.
Great, you just said about, he used to do a lot of the writing. I mean, who does the writing now that Vince has actually left?
Martin does all the writing now. He's written all of the new album, which comes out September.
We lock him in a room, you see. That's why he's in here today. You just lock him up and
he's locked up, he's writing
let him out.
So you started off with Depeche Mode in Basildon, and you wrote 3 hits for them. You had an album, went into the top 10, and then you left the band. Why, when it was riding on a sort of tide of success, why did you peel off?
Well, at the time, I just felt that the band wasn't going in the direction that I would have chosen to go in, and we had our arguments and our problems and everything, and also everything was really new to us. So I think the pressure was much greater then.
Do you think you're very much one voice as far as music's concerned?
Well, I tend to be sort of pretty dogmatic, especially in the studio. But, I think it's because when we first started and we were first in the studio, everybody wanted to do everything, because we were so kind of excited about it.
And it tempered you. I mean, you personally didn't want to be sort of outnumbered in that way by so many members of the group.
Well, yeah, I mean, and everybody felt the same, hence the friction.
As they got massively successful, that was when you left, wasn't it, after the debut album in '81? Why did you leave?
The band became successful quite quickly, did quite well in 6 months or something, and I think it went to everybody's head. We were very young and naive. It all happened so quickly, I think, and everybody went a bit crazy, so there was a little bit of friction.
You're a quite new band, and most of the guys are pretty young. Where do you have your musical roots?
Well, we live in a suburb from London, which is called Basildon, and it's a new town, and we're a new band, so I think that says it all.
What do you want people to experience when they listen to your music?
Just have good fun and enjoy it with us, and they don't have to find anything from the music or the lyrics, they just, as long as they enjoy it.
Do you think that the band will look the same in another 2 years with Only Sins?
If you come back in 2 years' time, then you can say. I don't think we're going to change. You never know, though. We might change in a week's time, but who knows?
Welcome to part 2 of my Depeche Mode album Deep Dive series. Today I'm going to be talking about their second studio album, A Broken Frame. This was released on September 27th, 1982, and was their first album without founder and their chief songwriter, Vince Clarke. I'm always making comparisons to Syd Barrett leaving Pink Floyd, because that's very much what happened here. Vince Clarke was responsible for 90% of the music, basically every song but one on their debut album, Speak and Spell, and they become very popular during that time in the UK. And much like Pink Floyd, when Syd Barrett left, there wasn't a whole lot of confidence that Depeche Mode was going to be able to carry on with a lot of success. And to Martin Gore's credit, who is basically the Roger Waters in the Depeche Mode story, he more than rose to the challenge. And I think most Depeche Mode fans would agree that in every respect, Broken Frame was not only better than Speak and Spell, but it was definitely a progression. They were certainly not the Depeche Mode that we would come to know and love yet. The lyrics still had a ways to go. They tend to deal with very basic boy-girl type relationships. There's not a lot of depth to the lyrics. But musically, they were starting to show some progression. The arrangements were getting more complex. They were starting to incorporate some more sounds beyond just the synthesizer and the drum machine. Definitely a darker tone to some of these songs, which is definitely the direction that Depeche Mode would head in. But A Broken Frame, to me anyway, is a much more enjoyable album than Speak and Spell. And much like Pink Floyd would not be what they would eventually become if Syd Barrett had not left, Depeche Mode would not have anywhere near reached the heights that they had reached, or be the band that they eventually became if Vince Clarke had stayed in the group. And I don't know if Martin Gore would have flourished as a songwriter the way that he did either. We'll never know, but I'm so glad. I've got nothing against Vince Clarke. I like Yazoo. I like Erasure. I've got nothing. I think Vince Clarke is a very gifted songwriter. He's a very gifted musician, very gifted composer. So I think it was very advantageous to Depeche Mode when Vince Clarke departed. So they're down to a trio, and Broken Frame, like I said before, I think is a very enjoyable album. And so let's get into the songs on this great record. The first song on the album is Leave in Silence, which already is much darker mood-wise than anything that Depeche Mode had recorded for the Speak and Spell album or to that point. I love, almost got like this Gregorian chanting at the beginning that leads into the song. It's not really a dance track. It's sort of like a mid-tempo synth pop, but again, it's a progression from anything that was on Speak and Spell. The next song is My Secret Garden, which again opens with some synthesizer sounding like heavy bells. And this is, again, not really a dance track. It's mid-tempo synth pop, but I absolutely love this. The sound textures that they get on the synthesizers and the keyboards on this track are just amazing. Even Dave Gahan's vocals are showing more maturity.
Secret anymore. Run from the house, holding my head in my hands, feeling dejected, feeling like a child might feel. It all seems so absurd, this should have occurred, my very only secret, and I had to go and leak it. My secret garden, not so secret anymore. No, my secret garden, not so secret anymore.
So absolutely love My Secret Garden. Then Monument. You know, it's interesting that the first three tracks on here, first four tracks technically, were definitely heading in a different direction than Speak and Spell. They're not this very poppy, up-tempo, danceable kind of music that we'd gotten on the first album. Monument is probably the slowest, most deliberate of the first three songs, and it's got a pretty complex drum machine beat. I will say that for this song, and some darker synthesizer tones. Dave Gahan's singing in a lower register than we're accustomed to. But Monument is another great song. This whole first side is just excellent. Nothing to Fear is a great instrumental. I think it was a lot for Martin Gore as a relatively new songwriter to come up with an entire album worth of lyrics. So we got an instrumental here, Nothing to Fear, which works. Great song. Then we have the single See You. I've actually got the 12-inch right here for See You. And this is closer to the Speak and Spell sound, although it's definitely, I think, better than anything with the exception of maybe Just Can't Get Enough. I love that opening synthesizer rhythm. And a little bit more of, you've got like these vocal harmonics that they achieve with the synthesizer, which are very cool. The lyrics are very basic, very much boy meets girl, boy loves girl, boy wants to see girl, is about as deep as the lyrics get.
You can keep me at a distance if you don't trust my resistance, but I swear I won't touch you. All I wanna do is see you. Don't you know that it's true?
And I'm sure Martin Gore cringes today when he listens to these lyrics, but it's still a great song, a great synth pop, and great synth pop song, and I think it made a great single. And again, I'm not so sure you can even dance to this. These songs on here, with the exception of maybe The Meaning of Love, are not dance songs. Like most of Speak and Spell, you could dance to, but on here, I think that's not really what they're going for. They're not going for that club crowd on this album. They're a band trying to find their way in a new direction, moving past Vince Clarke. Satellite is another mid-tempo. It's a darker. Again, I love, there's so many different textures that the synthesizers achieve on here, and they set different moods. All these songs tend to be very atmospheric, and they each have their own personality. And I love Satellite, kind of one of the lost early Depeche Mode songs. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this one, but it's a great opener to side 2. Very moody, very atmospheric, and I love it. Then the other single off of the second single, I believe it was, off this album, which is The Meaning of Love. There's not any bite to these lyrics like we would get on subsequent albums from Martin Gore. But again, he's still developing as a songwriter. These lyrics aren't bad. I think in many ways they're very clever. I think he uses some clever wordplay here. But it is probably the most up-tempo, the brightest song on this album.
Noted down all my observations, spent an evening watching television. Still I couldn't say with precision. No, it's a feeling and it comes from above. But what's the meaning of love?
Great synthesizer work on here. I love those analog synthesizers to death. Used it to great effect on this song. A Photograph of You is another one. The lyrics are very trite, but the music carries the song for me. It's probably one of the weaker songs on here. Another song that could have been on Speak and Spell, but it's enjoyable. It's just not one of my favorite songs on the album. Then we have Shouldn't Have Done That, which is the most topical song on the album, where Martin Gore is talking about plans made in the nursery can change the course of history, remember that. and just about how all these dictators, these world leaders, mass murderers, whatever have you, what they became probably was a product of their upbringing and their childhood. Could have been some abuse.
Grows up, goes to school, such a nice boy, obeys all the rules, mommy's proud of that.
Clever lyrics, the most clever lyrics definitely on here, and I love the arrangement too. This has the most interesting arrangement on the entire album. They use sparse instrumentation on this song, but it just kind of builds, and I love that melody. It's almost a childlike melody, but it suits the tone of the lyrics, where as this child is going through life and as he becomes older, the music becomes more complex, more ominous. You've got the stomping boots at the end, which signal, this person's in charge of an army or a military, or he's a dictator. But very cool song. I think they did perform it live in 1982, but I believe it was dropped from their set after the tours for this album, but still a very cool song. And then The Sun and the Rainfall, which again, another mid-tempo, not a dance song, but very cool atmosphere with this song, and a great Dave Gahan vocal. It just shows their maturity. This is not a song that would have been on the first album. And this is very much close to Construction Time Again. This would have fit at home on Construction Time Again, their third album. So all in all, I adore this album. I think this is head and shoulders above their first album, which you would expect, because most bands show progression from the first album to the second. But if you're lukewarm to Speak and Spell, I think you'll find there's a lot more to enjoy on A Broken Frame. And that's my take on this great album. Let me know what you think of A Broken Frame. Hopefully you're enjoying these episodes. And next time we'll be talking about their third album, where they bring a fourth member on, Alan Wilder. And Alan Wilder, I believe, is on A Broken Frame. I'm not sure he's on the whole album, but he wouldn't actually get credited or become a full member of Depeche Mode until Construction Time Again. So anyway, we'll be talking about that album next. Take care.